should be. I've made some tweaks to my audio. You guys are probably seeing my Krita program right now, but I made some tweaks to the audio. So I could be sounding like a prepubescent child right now. Hopefully it makes me a little bit more clear. At least the way I had it set up originally was that it made my voice basically as low as possible. But now I decided that I do need some of the higher notes of my voice in order to completely register all the letters and words that I'm saying. Some things would get picked up, some things wouldn't. So hopefully this is a little bit more co wow, more coherent. There. Just got to make some quick little tweak that I probably should have done earlier, but no time like there. Make it a little bit more specific. See any other tweaks I got to do before I get started? It might be a little bit more difficult for me to see anything in the chat because there's no dockable Twitch chat onto my art program. At least as far as I'm aware, I don't think anybody's thought of that yet. Um, I should maybe not broadcast the header if I want to record just a time lapse. Let me turn that off for the recording. All right. Sorry, I just had a little fix there. All right. So it's been a little while since I worked on this one, but I think from what I can tell, the last thing I was working on was I was setting up to start drawing this face over here. I really sorry. All right. So yeah. I haven't used digital before, so let me just go and talk about things. I use Krita. Uh, very much like set up like how I remember Photoshop being. I think the last time I used Photoshop was CS6. Um, and I've already downloaded some pens and stuff that I like. A lot of them are very similar to the tools I use in real life. Like this one's basically just a micron pen. And then some brushes and fill brushes, texture brushes. I get that you don't want to get too bogged up in those kind of details though, because less about the brush and more about the actual work. But just some things that a setup that I'm really fond of. A majority of my work has been in GIMP, which I've come to discover is not super effective. I appreciate it that it's worked. It's free. I mean, so I can't complain too much, but it's not super. Um, it's got a lot of stuff that it lacks compared to Krita. Um, just to show off what I've been doing as far as digital art. These I haven't posted anywhere yet. I've been waiting for a good time. I missed that window, and now I'm just gonna go ahead and post now. Um, this is the first Vampire the Masquerade OC I made, Connor. And this was just like a visual that kind of like inspired the entire like series. That I finally eventually made into a digital piece. Um, so yeah, the idea was I work on the concepts, uh, onto just like regular pen and paper sketchbook, and then I make like a fully fledged visual that like tells the story of the character or tells the vibe of the character in the digital piece. So you kind of just get like these peaks at them. And I was really, really happy with how this came out. There are some flaws that I can see. This was finished maybe like 3 or 4 or 5 months ago. One of the issues of digital art, at least for me, is that it takes so much more time for me to finish anything, and I don't know if that's because of the it's hard for my lines to come out correctly, or if it's just because there's so many more options that aren't even like possible in a traditional medium. So like lighting is something I can spend time focusing on. Blending uh is probably something I should spend a lot of time. I know there's a lot of different methods to do it in traditional art, but it's not as focused, or it's not as simple to do as it is in digital. In digital, it's like you can blend anything at any stage of the work. In traditional, it's like sometimes you have to make sure it's still wet if you're working on like watercolors or stuff. But digital, it literally doesn't matter. I'm giving myself a headache doing that. Um, and I could spend much more time dealing with like textures and stuff that I don't always have the freedom to. So like I get to get these just really nice textures, really nice like brush texture that I know it's not that's not what shadows look like. They're not these grainy things, but I think it gives much more of a distorted and nasty feel. Like it feels like what I imagine his insides feel like, it nasty and gross. Like he feels disgusted by whatever is going on in his own head, and that's kind of like being represented by his own shadow. Deep. Um, yeah. So this is one of the fun things. Oh, another thing. Digital is so great for like making big uh tasks into really simple tasks. So he has kind of these just like meaningless squiggles on his arm in my concept sketch of him, because I can't spend that much time making a tattoo or else it's going to take forever. Um, but in digital art, I could make the just like this rose and leaf decal, and then just copy and paste, and then just shift them around and blend them together, and take pieces off and different sizes and all this other stuff in like just like in a few hours. Like instead of days, it takes a few hours, and I can't say how awesome that is for me. Like it just it's I was so happy with how this tattoo ended up looking, and it's something that you can easily just like look over, and I have no issue with that. Like it's one thing where it's like a detail you can appreciate, but don't have to appreciate. Something about that's really nice to me. Yeah, that's Connor. That was the first of the series. This is kind of like the end cap. Once I get these full sketches, I can finally be done with this series. I love making characters in games and, well, pretty much just games or different worlds where I can make a character for each different type of world or character, like different races or classes if you want to talk D&D, like making a character for each and every class and race and whatnot. I love being able to do that. So this is my Toreador, and I don't know how many people are familiar with Vampire the Masquerade, but the Toreador are the artistic, stylish race. Um, so I think this is one. He's supposed to be like a poet, so he's obsessed with written word and the timing of words and stuff like that. So he is sitting here, kind of just like thinking of that. Like he kind of pushes himself to his own kind of insanity. Yeah, that's Connor. Then the second piece, which is already also finished. I'm working on the third piece, in case you're wondering how many there's going to be. Seconds. Oh no. Here we go. This is Catalina. This is the second character. This is the Tremere of Vampire the Masquerade. They are the magical arcane. I think there's a specific word for their kind of magic that isn't magic, but yeah. So yeah, she's the uh she's a goth girl. That was basically the entire concept. Raven from Teen Titans, that kind of vibe. I had a lot of fun with this one, especially with I had more fun with the lighting. I tried to dump a few different techniques to get that done. Trying to think of any kind of note. There's a lot of like different things that I had to learn. Colorizing lines is something that I've never done before, but I this was my first like real attempt at trying to colorize lines, and I think it works pretty well. It's weird. It's like I don't really notice it even as an artist, so, even as somebody that looks at all these little details and like can spot these little details. Colorizing lines is something that's so important, but I still can't understand why it's important. Like it's just something I know I have to do without actually knowing why. Let me see if I can find a layer for that. Here, trying to find the line art. I think people like to flatten layers, but I haven't done that yet. Here we go. I think. Oh yeah. Oh, there. No, these are more lighting. I think it might already be merged. I think I might have already flattened those layers. Oh wait, here it is. Okay, so you can kind of just like see the layer down there. I don't know if that shows up on the stream, but I went. I have a layer that just is a pass through layer, and it can color just the line art. So I have like the pinks, different shades, a little bit more of a blue shade whenever it gets towards the blue lighting, and then an orange shade to represent the candlelight. This was one where I actually uh planned ahead for all the colors or all the different lighting sources. So I have the pink from the candlelight. Actually, if you still think I have the guide that I used. Okay, yeah. So this was the guide that I used to represent the all the different light sources. So you have the light for her magic little stone necklace that radiates just a small but powerful light. Then the candlelight that comes from below, she has like candles around here that off screen. Um, you get this moonlight, which is the strongest part of the piece, and it also reflects a little bit back. I don't understand lighting too well, but I did my best to try to work something out, and I know of reflective light. So yeah, I'm just giving. I just made a guide for myself at the start of the piece. This is another example of the my ability to make a complex pattern and then be able to copy and paste it and stretch it to whatever place it needs. So just like the Connor, these were just random decals that had no meaning or pattern. But once I got it into the digital space for it, I could actually like spend time and work on it without having to like break my back over it. So I made this like master pattern, copied it, and then just pasted it over where I need it, so it shows up in her little leg bits that are mostly covered anyways. But and then also her choker. Yeah, I love being able to work on like those little patterns that honestly didn't take that much time, and then being able to apply them, and they look so much cleaner, so much more detailed. You're able to appreciate it so much more than when you're doing traditional work. And I mean, I'm sure everybody has their own technique, so that might not even be entirely true. Like, I'm sure there's traditional artists that are able to make small details so cleanly, but I have a really hard time with. And there's also this blood. Probably mentioned the blood. that was this really fun thing. I had issues trying to make it look like something that could be blood. It was kind of just this red paste, and it was hard to get the right look for the blood. Instead of just like red water or magical nonsense. And I think the key part of it is just the white lines, like the reflective lights. I think that really gives it like this wet texture that I think signals in your head that it's probably something like, and obviously the specific shade. Yes. So this was a really fun thing that I saved for last, and I was really happy with how it came out. There's also little details in other places in the piece. Yeah, that's Catalina. She's a goth witch girl. She has her own coven and stuff like that. Uh, all these characters have their huge backstories. I wrote like 4 or 5 pages of backstory for like every single character, but I try to just simplify it for everybody else because it's one of those things where it's like I know I have like a lot of passion and interest in these characters, but I have to consider what would be good to communicate to other people, like what's necessary to communicate in order for people to enjoy it too, and save the rest for last. All right, and then we can move on to the third piece, which is Maria, the gamer Nosferatu, as some people on Reddit refer to it. Um, so hers is a little bit different. The other two were a little bit moody. They had their special look to it. Sorry, they had like a gothic vibe, a very depressing vibe, Vampire the Masquerade vibe. But hers is a little different. I hope it doesn't offend any of the people who are a fan of the games too much. To have a more comedic character. But yeah, hers is set up to be taking a selfie, which is a very hard angle to do. I had to look up a bunch of images, and it was hard for me to find one that worked for what I was going. It's like something you know in your head. You've seen pictures of people taking selfies of their like rooms like this, but it's hard to find a specific picture when you need it. Um, yeah, I've already finished her line art almost completely. I have the text on her chest to finish, but that's probably gonna be later, maybe towards the end of the inking. I still have all the background and everything to get inked. Eh, I might start to leave those background pieces less ink, maybe just the chair, and just work out the rest in like the coloring phase, because that's kind of how I did the backgrounds for Catalina. Connor had like an entirely detailed background. Um, yeah, I actually like drew out all the papers and notes behind him, and that took forever. But Catalina just had just everything blocked out in color, and I think that's a little bit more expedient and effective. So go ahead and get started. I actually haven't drawn his face at all in the background. I do have a bad habit of putting a little bit too much detail into small things that no one notices, and you really gotta like remind yourself that no one's gonna be able to see any of these things, like the studded belt from 2013 that has not left my mind. But yeah, it's a learning process. Mm, let's just make a line art layer first, or so the idea is that she's taking a selfie, and in the background you can see her godfather character, her sire, like peeking in and noticing that she's taking a selfie, and about to freak out that she's taking a selfie and about to break the masquerade. So you have him like sticking his neck out, just looking at the body. Bring it right in. This is a detail I haven't really thought about exactly how. Let me take out. And just little things like this. Just like this is why I have so much fun with digital art, even though it's not something I use that often. Which is just like there's such an extreme amount of flexibility in how you see the picture and how you can work things out and take things in, take things out, scale things differently. I have a hard time with getting the size of things right, and I won't notice until like the piece is already done with. So being able to fix that out in the line art or in the digital art is so easy. Probably why a lot of people do digital. There we go. Oh wait, he's mad. Sorry. There we go. All right. Trying to make this whole theme kind of natural. It's a bit of an awkward one. Mm, maybe if he right there. Is that going to show up with her in the picture? Yeah, I want it to be a little bit more like he just noticed. Like this is more like he's already in the middle of the door, so he should have already been able to see it from like right here. But I want it to look like he's not like glued to the wall. So let me make the background a little brighter so you can. This is gonna be the room. This is her like gamer setup because she's a streamer, so she has like a microphone, multiple monitors. Her router's gonna be here. It's kind of like her photos showing off her streamer setup. So yeah, you can see he's like chilling right here. This is the doorway. So I want him to be like just coming around the corner, and he's shocked to see her taking a selfie and about to break. So I'm trying to figure out like the right angle where it's like natural that he would see it. That feels really good. Let me check. Yeah, that works perfect. Dude, let me spin it back to normal. Yeah, that feels really natural. Okay, I'm gonna take Maria out and start working on him. Hmm. How would he carry his arms? What is the pose for shock? I know there's like the hands on the face kind of shock, but that's not the kind of like not the kind of vibe that Tetsuya has. Arms hanging low doesn't feel right either. Something where like your arms are kind of up. It's not yet like brought up to your chest like you're about to fight somebody, but it's like you bring it up just out of like shock. And then maybe he's got his other hand like already on the door corner, like he's peeking over. Starting to have this sneaky suspicion. My general like how thick I make people thighs might be too much because I always give everybody like humongous thighs and don't even think twice about it. But I've started to notice like this isn't how normal people's thigh is. It looks a little short. I think that's just because of the camera. Because the camera was like above everybody, looking down. So the heads are going to be a little bit bigger than normal. But I might still be overdoing it even then. Trying to work things out. This is in line art, so it's or this isn't the inking part. Let me erase the little blue circle that was supposed to be his head. Now I can start the actual like solid ink. Studio's got a very sharp profile. How far? This is one of those things where I got to pay attention to how small his head is compared to everything, so I can remind myself how much detail to put in it. I am gonna make his head smaller. So let's do that. This is something I should be working on in art. You know what? This do it. Well, there it is. Layer, side, here. Try to zoom out. Oh, he's that is way too small for his head. He just needed a slight turn. It. Yeah, that feels. Oop, and merge that back. Back. We go and open up the notebook sketch. Started. And there we go. So this is the concept sketch, like the final concept. Um, I did change the text on her hoodie. That's the only real change I've made to her design. So this is the character that I'm working out right in this little in the background. These are her sire, who is one of my favorite designs. He's got a very he's got me just so I have the reference. I don't have to keep tapping for the reference. There- Uh, oh, he's gonna have a shocked look to him, so his eyes are gonna be a little bit wider than normal. I'll fix the eyes later. I won't leave him blacked out. I'll do all the coloring like that in a different layer. But just for my Tetsuya was one of the reasons I spent so much time on doing his design, as well as the actual character Maria, because I wanted a character that also represents a little bit more of a traditional Nosferatu, at least in Vampire the Masquerade. Somebody who has that like deeper background that isn't so silly. Just in case anybody had any issues, I don't think anybody did, at least as far as I can tell. The response to her has been pretty positive. Like the gamer nod. Just making sure. What is a shock Nosferatu? I intended to give. I think maybe just like gritting his Yes, I think one of the details I wanted for this one, um, at least in my visual language for Nosferatu, is that like each one has like their particular each like different like bloodline has their specific uh trying to think of the word characteristic. So everybody in his bloodline would have like these very whenever you become Nosferatu, you get these very pronounced cheekbones and like angular, almost alien like head. I think those would do it. I think just to make it a little bit more unique, like each different Nosferatu from the other. So like some will be, I know in V5 they made it so you can have like a very almost normal looking Nosferatu that wouldn't break a masquerade. It just looked like a really sick person. Um, but I also wanted some that still look like the very gross, very sickly looking Nosferatu that are more traditional, some mangled teeth. Kind of the entire challenge of this one was for me whenever I was designing the character was to make a Nosferatu that was kind of adorable. I think I did pretty okay. I think she's kind of adorable. Yeah, that's a good amount. I think mm, his jaw is actually a little bit more broad than, or his chin is a little bit more broad than I originally thought. I always knew he had like an angular look. Forgot that he had a butt chin. Then we can get all the texture lines. He got a very ruddy skin. I'm gonna pull out the bones even a little bit more. Oh no, I do not want a 1000 pixel pen. Got even more jagged look to it. Like I said, I wanted to look a little unhealthy, like something's warped in his bone structure. Hmm. Yeah, if I used 1000 pixel pen, it would probably ruin my day. I do get pretty nutty with the size of my pen sometimes. Like everything, every one of these like texture brushes has like a specific size, and I'll be like, I know it's normally supposed to be 60 pixels, but let's try putting it to 200 pixels just because I didn't plan out the size. Correct. I knew these one single pixel lines weren't going to be that important, but it at least gives a texture to the face. It's not necessarily like important exactly how the lines end up looking because it's going to be far enough that way that you don't really get to see all the details, but it at least makes them look not smooth. Smooth is the opposite. His skin would feel like a rock, like shale. If you were to touch, I don't recommend touch. Up some. All right, so that should be all of his face. Ooh, I forgot. He's stylish. He has a single tasteful earring. If you see a character with a single earring, like a single ring earring, it's probably based off. He wears a single, and that's always kind of like stuck in my mind. Just there. I'm gonna do the inside. See, I always get to this point where I'm literally looking at just like actual pixels, and I'll like spend so much work on it, forgetting that it's not gonna show up. Feels in the that act. All right, now we get to do the rest of the body. He's got a very athletic build for Nosferatu, and he dressed too well. Gave him like a very clean pressed white shirt. That's kind of based off that idea of people who wear like white shirts to show they're not dirty. There's a specific phenomenon where people like they're so afraid of like seeming dirty or unclean. They'll just wear like white shirts all the time everywhere. Phenomenal. Your shirt's a little, got a little bit of juice, a little bit of drip. He likes to wear the shirts. Just a little bit of the chest piece, some of the neck muscle. I gotta change the angle of the collar. I think this is the reason why my digital pieces take so long. It's always the line takes so. It's very intuitive on pencil and paper to like feel out the line, but on digital pads, it's a little bit more like they're guessing at what kind of line and stroke you're making, and you have to constantly do it a couple times just to get it right. Too many. So yeah, that's why I'm thinking of going ahead and spending the money on buying a actual graphic display, which is so much more expensive than just the regular pen tablets that I use. But if I remove that like border between what I'm doing on the pad and then what I'm doing on the screen, it will go much more smooth. But that's just a guess. I might still end up having the same issue and spending a lot of money over. Please, 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 please. I'm begging you, just finish. Just there we go. Fill out that shape. You got a weird nub right now. I'm trying to work out what it's gonna, the angle of the hand. Kind of imagining if there was no hand before I actually draw in the hand. His arm is fat right there. I wish my forearms were that big. I got like thin little forearm and like huge biceps. Not to brag, I mean kind of jack. But that's still too fat. Man, why you got such fat? Because of the general shape of forearms. They have like a weird. They have a specific shape. I don't think I can even describe it without making myself look really silly. But maybe that's just me attaching too much to it. Oh, a graphic display. I found out that Huion, the tablet that I use right now, they actually sell humongous graphic displays for like 200 to 500 bucks, which is really cheap compared to other ones. And I'm wondering why. What am I giving up? What's the secret? And I'm guessing the sensitivity of the tablets aren't really great. They're very, if it at the cost that they're at, I'm guessing that's what they give up, which isn't ideal. But also there is the Wacom One tablet, which should look pretty great. They're also expensive, like 500 bucks. Hmm. Oh, all right. Um, have a fun with dinner. But yeah, that's one where it's like you actually have to tell yourself, yeah, pretty much. That's the thing with Wacom. You definitely or a lot of the art supplies. It's like the best brands are very well aware that they are the best brand, so they will make you pay everything for it. I'm really upset that my brother's dog just opened the door and walked away. He didn't even walk in. He just opened the door, peeked in, left. Trying to work out what his hands were in my. Everybody's favorite part, drawing. This is something I should be doing in the line art layer, but it's gonna work. Kind of no, not too luck. Good. Kind of looks like Freddy Krueger. Enjoy your dinner. I really should have done it in the line art, in the other layer because now I have to draw over it while it being in the same layer. Let me just. Oh, this is one of the great things about digital art. You can just cut things out whenever you and put them to different layers when you mess things up. That's not what I wanted. Geometric ones are much. And just paste. I merged it before putting it to the same opacity. Dark. There we go. All fixed. I love doing that so much. Just cutting a piece out and merging it with a different layer. Whenever you make a mistake, it's so. So now that I have the bones of the drawing, I can actually do the line art for it. Make a proper hand. Prop. I should not. Ooh, I have the wrong. Oh wait, oh wait. Whoa, 60 is not a good size for this brush. Or maybe it is. Hold on. If I just do really quick. I think is the idea. Ooh, that looks. I like that I know hands well enough to do this. Pretty comfortable. I won't say I'm an expert at hand. I mean, not to toot my own horn, but I don't struggle with it like most do. It was like eyes, like matching eyes. Like one of those things that I figured out first, so I knew I wouldn't have an issue. I don't think this is going to be visible enough that I need to worry about line width. I can just micron all this out. Save that. That's the issue. Middle finger. Seems like music from a movie. I don't know. I was like, ooh, hmm, might have to make the hand small, a little fat. Fat. Veiny old preppy hands. I mean, pretty much everybody has like these weird veiny looking hands, but you kind of just like don't show it up for characters that you don't want to look like old people, like they have old gross hands, even if they actually are there in real life. Kind of like wrinkles. Uh, Even though everybody has wrinkles, at least like very slight ones, you usually don't draw them onto the character unless you want them. It's kind of like that tip that people tell you about teeth, where you don't draw the lines of individual teeth, even though they do show up in real life. Don't draw them because it makes them look. Same with like wrinkles anywhere on the body. Like they're there, just don't draw them because it kind of gives them the wrong look. It's like something that your brain doesn't really notice in real life unless you're looking for teeth. So actually putting them on paper, I don't know what that word. I just use that word without knowing. Yeah, that's enough. You get the old, old. That's enough. Lo and behold, ignored my own tip. Get that big muscle. Can vampires trim their own nails? I don't think they grow nails. I think that's the. They don't grow 'em. I've looked a lot of these details up. Like, do they grow hair still in Vampire the Masquerade? And the answer is usually no. They don't grow at all. So you don't have to worry about hair. There you go. Yeah, it's still a little too big, so I'm gonna cut it out and shrink it. God, I love working, being able to do that in digital. Cut parts out to work on the scale separate. If I was doing this on pen, paper, and if I was doing this traditionally, I wouldn't be able to work on the scale of things afterwards. Uh, Why is it not showing up? There it is. Not too much. Like something like then merge it right back. Oh, where's it? No, go away. Oh, I'm gonna lose my mind. There we go. I missed all my hotkeys because I'm not looking down at my pad. Yep. Okay. Feels natural enough. He's only a background character, so it shouldn't really matter exactly how. He doesn't matter as much as the main character. I mean, that hand is entirely hidden anyway, so I just spent all that time working on nothing. Traditional me, the huge from me. That is actually really heartbreaking. But you know, maybe I'll be able to show it off. Goes in. In. Definitely. I was a little too focused on the work. Didn't remind myself to actually remember that his hand wasn't going to be in. I've done that before. That's usually one of the reasons why it takes me so long to finish anything digital because I end up doing details that don't show up. Sometimes I'm fine with it because sometimes you just got to work out the form in your head and draw it out anyways. But sometimes just me no smart. He's got a little gold necklace. Damn it, Adam's up. No, I never drew his Adam. I'll just go and say he doesn't have a pronounce. It's not a detail that shows up. So the bottom of his chest is around like I'm gonna overdraw. Even the door's like right here. I'm gonna overdraw a little bit because I don't want. I think it's better to have it and not need it, and then need and not have it. Kind of like that was a little bit too much. And have some got a very nice fitting, well fitting. He has a blazer that fits well. There, I'm trying to. So I don't want it hanging down. Trying to think of how the fabric hold on itself. It's not a very flexible material, so I think it would just got to build. Like I said, just around here, on where the button-up shirt, the rib ended out. I know whenever you tuck your shirt, it, like puffs out a bit at the end. I'm probably gonna put some of these lines back in just for like the impression, like some of his else to come out, which will be done in shading, but just a little bit of the line art, like that. Same for the chest. I want most of this to come out just in the shading, but just a little bit of the ink, ink lines too. Sure, it's actually gonna have a solid separation. Probably a smarter way to do this is some wrinkles in the buttons on shirts. So trying to think. Guys have buttons on the right side. Buttons. I've made drawings where I put so many buttons on the shirt that it looks ridiculous, though. Good to plan those out ahead. But I gotta. And if you really want to think about the dynamics of a shirt, you plot out that the fabric's going to stretch specifically towards the buttons. So, like, if it's a little bit of a tight shirt, then you get a little bit of this kind of action going on, where that it's being the button interlocking with the, I don't know what to call it, but you'll see that the buttons actually stretch the fabric a bit. But that depends on how tight the shirt you want and to what degree you actually want to do the detail. Because that's one of those things where it's like it's not really going to be seen or noticed, or cared about by anyone. But if you personally like thinking that about that level of detail, then you're. But like I said, this is going to be something that you barely even notice in the piece. So yeah, it's like those are the buttons I'm working on. You could tell, like even from distance, and there are buttons there. So I don't actually need to do the threading within it, like just like the little X, because at that point you're just pixel. But at least like that they're buttons and they're not just little dots. That shows kind of like his wrinkles. It's like his wrinkles don't really matter because at this point they're pixels, but you can tell from afar that he has something on his face, and that's all I need. Just that little impression of something. Fix, fix all these because I roughed this thing out and it needs to be pressed size three. Three is what I'm using for most of that to you. One for details that don't need to be the same size. Like if just the buttons do not need to be the same size as the rest of the line art. Brush size. I just noticed something that's wrong. This is a detail no one's gonna notice, but my brain refuses to let me ignore it. Uh, you know what? Do this. Let's just switch sides of. Let's say he's wearing a woman's blouse here. He's not the type of person to really care. Maybe they just fit. Then we can just do two little lines. So now this shirt makes, again, it's not a detail that I think anybody's gonna really notice. My brain just refuses to let me. Just like little impressions of the. There's a term for this part of the shirt. The thicker part of the place where you put your butt. I don't know the terminology for it. I took it with class for barrel, so I should know it. I don't. I know lapel. Pretty big strap. Second. Sorry, you had to hear that. Rolling over my wires. Oh, that's great. That's great. Oh, I'm gonna mute myself while I fix my wires. All right, I got rolled under the wheel. Love when that happens. You love to see it. Why does it say have a notification? Where? Oh, okay. Back to we're doing belt. Again, I don't want to get too bogged up into the details of the belt. But just enough that you can see from afar that it's most. Just by feeling belt buckle. 1,000 pixels. You don't need that. Oh, I am going to hurt somebody. Joke, but not actually yet. No, no. Bothers me that this is 2.1 pixels. That I'm gonna ignore it. Yeah, it looks right enough. Getting crease pants. Kind of got it all roughed out here. But use brush, the brush, the brush, please, because they got the brush actually has like sharp ends, unlike the microns, which are just very rounded ends to the stroke. So like it starts thick, gets thin at the end. What I'm talking about. While microns are even the entire way. This is the micron. It's like even round on all sides. I don't like lines up. There's like a little rule in art that like lines aren't supposed to match up unless they need to match. Like if two lines are like even and they have nothing to do with each other, like if this is a part of a bookcase and this is part of the wall, they should be slightly offset from each other. But if they are completely connected, then it looks amateurish. There's a better way of explaining that rule, but that's what I was doing over here, making sure that the line of the stitching of the pants doesn't match up with the line of the leg. And the very last detail I need to do is just his hand. Very second when I fix it. Does he have a lapel? He does have a lapel. Wait, I already have his picture. Oh, I forgot he has gloves. It's not. So I guess we can call this third. Just trying to smooth out the line because I've roughed these out fast. maybe I should. Oop. Yeah. So yeah, that was a good enough spells for his blazer. I'm kind of finding something wonky with the shape of the shoulder. This should be a little bit more rounded in the opposite direction, concave instead of con. I think I'm gonna end up redrawing. Sorry. Yeah, that looks to me. No, that looks good. You don't get it. Yeah. The last little thing now should be definitely the last little thing. Ignore that. Is the actual the only hand that will actually show up. Just rough it out real quick. No, let's do that on the paint. So if it's coming around the corner, it's gonna be like this. It's gonna be flat. Sorry, it's gonna be flatter. So flatter to the camera. Gonna be left hand, so thumb's gonna be pointing. Kind of curve it. Okay. Now, or let's actually ink up the hand. However, I'm on the wrong. don't know why I ignored that line. I was like going straight to the hand, trying to get the nook so I can tell where. And might not include the hand. It kind of looks goofy. Mm. Specifically with how he kind of like grab the way he's grabbing the door frame. Mm. Whenever I was doing the line art for it, it looked a lot more natural. But I think now that I'm looking at it, it does look a little off. I think realistically, that's something that you can do, but it doesn't look normal, even if it's something you do. Like I was talking about with the wrinkles and lines in the teeth, something that you can do, you see, but visually, it just even if you can do it, doesn't mean you should. At least according to me, I am the judgment toward of what you can or cannot do as an artist. I am the final. Right. And did I want to fix the mouth? I was looking at that earlier. Kind of want to change because it's kind of not open. There we go. I think that's enough of that. Let me also go ahead and do. We're at it. Now we can go back to a little bit normal of a brush size instead of just fixed brush. How do I want it? Making like a comic book. I did something similar in one of my other drawings. Check my Instagram, where I've made like a comic book dialogue box uh, balloon. That's the word. Word balloon. Oh, wait, what? Oh, I'm not on a brush. This is just liner. It's not actually filled in, is it? Okay, yeah, it's clear. I could use like line tool. I don't mind it being a little perfect. I think it's a good thing that it's not perfect. A little big. I might downsize it in, later. For now, this one I actually do want. Then fill. Okay, not exactly what I wanted. Um, not sure why it's doing. So I'm gonna fill them in. Probably a good reason why I didn't do it correctly. But wait a second, hold on. What is setting? No, there's no settings on the fill bucket. I have no idea why it's not behaving as though the shapes are in there. But we're just gonna have to fill them in. Probably shouldn't have done that in at an angle. Take there it is. Forgot what button the hotkey is. Thankfully, thanks. Did you turn it? And also just make it smaller. That I'm already. Because I kind of wanted this to be like a small background detail. There you go. That looks great. I really like that. That's exactly how I wanted it to look. I'm so excited. I'm just looking over everything, trying to make sure I'm happy with it so far. Gotta press. All right. What are we gonna do next? Next, I think is gonna be the chair, or I can do the dialogue on her. The dialogue on her chest might be easy, but I don't know if it's gonna be that. I only got there about 30 minutes. This is gonna be a long piece. Um, just to like write out the steps. What I'm going to be doing. Let me just make notes for myself. Make it like a to-do list. Do it in break. I like making notes on just like a layer. So first, my hand. All right. Ink gamer. Okay, so another layer just so the text shows up better. Okay. Back. No. All right. Ink gamer chair. Add hoodie text. Ink. Then I don't know if I'm going to be detailing all the lines in the back. I think I'm gonna leave all that to the coloring stage where I'll just block everything out in different colors. That way you get like the line art on the important things and then the background which might end up melting together. But I think that's kind of a good thing because you're not supposed to pay as much attention to the back. I'll try to work on making the stand out enough so it's not just like this meaningless collage of colors, but it also doesn't take away attention from you know character. She's supposed to be the one that stands out. I can give her a mustache. I'm a 5-year old apparently. Put a flower. Okay. So add hoodie text. After that, I think once I'm done with those two details, we can go ahead and move on to the color. So then it would be blocking out the shape. And I do have to start making my light guide. So this is going to be a gamer setup, so obviously it's going to be a dark room. But thankfully, these other streamers have already figured out a solution for that, which is every streamer I've seen has a whole ton of LEDs all over the room. So I'm going to have plenty of opportunities for like bright lights that light up the character. And I mean, I'd probably just light her up even if there wasn't any light, just because I can. The hallway is going to be dark, so you won't be able to see anything in there. Yeah, I think that's all the notes I need to leave for myself. So I think we're gonna do the text on the chest first because I think that's gonna be something quick enough that I can finish in the stream. Where's I don't think there it is. Try to find. Go into no. I'll leave him there. That way, because I'm probably gonna have to use the reference for his neck tattoos. There's not much detail going on in there, just enough so I can remember what I did and have it be consistent. Let me try something out. I had an idea for this while I was working on stuff. So does an erase layer an erase layer work? Can I just no? Well, hold on. Try making it faster. All right, just an idea. I wanted to do kind of like some non-destructive editing. I know that's what masks are for, and I don't understand how to use masks very well. I've watched like the tutorial on it like 100 times, but I can't. I don't want to delete the art, so I'm gonna duplicate. We're just gonna hide it, the original, and then we're just gonna erase it. Yeah, so we're just gonna erase the copy. One of those lines that line up that shouldn't. Now they look. All right. And then we get to keep the original. So I still have the arm in case I ever need it, which I probably will. A part of me just doesn't want to delete it completely. All right, let's do this test. Chest tech. This might also be something I end up deleting. I don't think I want line art for the chest. That's probably something I'll leave for the coloring stage, but maybe I could at least colorize the line. Let's let's fade everything out. Let's take the background completely out. Then let's uh, soften the ink. I just want to be able to focus on text. Just yeah. So this is one word especially where we're gonna need the lines to not have any depth or width because it's text, bold text on a shirt. I think that makes but I feel like I spent so much work just doing that eye, and when you zoom out, it's like it's just an eye. It's like there's not much to it. I don't know. Something about that's really funny to me. Add some more guidelines. We're gonna say okay. So this is around her chest, so we're gonna have going to be a round shape. Text curve. Yes. Hmm. Um, I guess it would be maybe segment. I don't. I feel like that's maybe a little bit too much. It is a hoodie, so it would just be like a simple round, at least for the cloth. Not think too much. Think too hard about what's underneath. Keep your head in the game. Don't be a dirty. Hmm. Think not of women. Think of freedom. I can't remember the words for that meme. Like see like a picture of George Washington's face covering something lewd. Be like, do not tempt yourself. kind of just general lines to shape. I'm trying to look at it to see if there's any issue. I think this one needs. Ooh, I forgot that erased it. We could just leave it around. Okay. I think get back to the um just a little note. Her hoodies always had a "I hate me too." She's a gamer, so I think self-deprecating humor is kind of just par for the course. Um, but I thought the phrasing was a little funky, so I changed it to "I hate myself." It just was hard to draw that on a shirt, but now that I'm on digital, I can adjust the size as much as I want, and I can actually fit it without it. I didn't want anybody to read that and be like, "I hate Me Too." You mean I hate the Me Too movement? I wanted, it has and nothing to do with that. Literally her. I think it's kind of like the idea is like you kind of hate how she looks. Um, and she kind of agrees, but she's, she has no choice but to live with it. At least that's her philosophy. I think most people would realize that she Maria is just a nice human. I don't think she has any as far as her backstory goes. She's just a very, very, very nice, which might be a little unfitting for a Vampire the Masquerade character, which I have worried about. Usually you want a Vampire the Masquerade character to have something negative to them. I think that would more come out in her feeding habits, things like that, and the actual work she does, because she's more of a hacker. So she has no issues with like invading personal privacy, stealing from companies. I mean, who doesn't want to do that? But I think that gives her a little bit more of a gray area where she's not a complete, just adorable little smiling saint. She does some pretty. I wrote down. I think she eats animals. She doesn't feed on humans, but she does. It's not of a more of a. Hold on, let me check because I wrote down all their backstories. Just want to double check. I hate that song has haha. Okay, where did I put her feeding? Trying to load the entire document. No, 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 too far now. Too far. Yep. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, she feeds on rat. Very Nas thing to do. Come on, you son of a gun. Would you follow the guide for the love of all that is? I'm gonna have the middle bar be same distance. There's a lot of little differences you find in fonts if you spend enough time working on them. That you get like little details of how to change things, like serif and sans serif. Um, then you get like the little differences between how the E is written, how the T is written. Like personally, in my own writing, I like to draw the A like that, but I know like the default is just a little loop. E E. So in some E's, they have the tiny little like this one is smaller than the others, but this one's going to be a very simple equal this length for all three of the bars. I'm not sure why. I think my thinking is I feel like I've seen sweaters in real life where they just have like very simple text phrases, almost like the really bad old guy shirts, where it's just like some like dumb joke about their truck or fishing. I think it's kind of got that vibe, but like the female version where it's like they wear shirts like "Live, Laugh, Love" on it. I think that's kind of a similar vibe she's going on, but more of a like a gamer vibe. You'll see like those shirts too, like at a Marshalls, where it's like I'm a gamer, I eat pizza, like that. You'll see those kind of shirts, and I think this gives off a system like very default, but also very real, at least in my opinion. Like that's what a lot of her visual design is. This isn't what I think people or this isn't like my um. It's not what I feel like. I'm trying to figure out the right way to say it. She's drawn in a way that reminds me of people that I see in real life, not like a visual design of like where I thought, oh, if this hoodie is drawn just this, and then this pants drawn just this, it matches visually. Like I just threw parts together that I feel like I've seen in real life. So it felt like a real person I could see in real life. That's which is why it's kind of ugly, but it's realistic, you know? It's like an ugly that you can see somebody doing in I mean, I like it looks comfortable, I think, in, uh, in, uh, in my eyes. It looks comfortable. It also has, like, a familiar kind of gamer kind of vibe to it. Like, it's somebody in that community, something's in the gamer community where it's just comfortable, not too much thought of, like, visual design. It's not like this work of art. It's not Versace. It's not Giorgio Armani. It's cheap hoodie bought at Marshall or Ross or wherever you buy clothes for cheap. You know, they're comfortable, they get the job done. They are low. And maybe they have a little bit to say about your personality. I think some of the other characters you'll see will have a little bit more of flair. I think that's a very fun aspect of designing characters set in real life as opposed to Dungeons and Dragons characters, which I a lot more of my forte is that you get to spend a lot more time just looking at fashion and sometimes it's that sounds a little boring in my head, but I actually have a lot of fun looking up like endless pictures of like runway models and trying to like replicate that on a paper. So like you'll later in the series you'll be able to see me design actual like runway dresses. And I don't know if I'm you know qualified, but I have fun. Maybe it'll like look silly. Maybe people would be this is a awful design, but I have fun doing it. It's really hard. because every other letter is like super flat and simple, and then this one's all curved, and curves are a little bit hard to give off the flat monotone vibe. I think those are the words I meant. Like you can, it's really hard to avoid having some kind of artistic take on a curved letter because curves that actually busting out a ruler and gritting out the S, and it's gonna have some kind of personal impression on. I think comic book letters would understand, or I mean, I guess anybody that uses font or works on fonts works with that, not just an art. People work. Anyways, getting too bogged up in letter, not super. Get out. Just how everything. It's very important to take a look at everything together, not get too locked up in details. Let me take a grid. Yeah. So the letters are clearly smaller, and I think that's because it's the angle of the shirt is going to have everything getting smaller the lower it goes. Even at this distance, because of the angle, it's going to be a noticeable change in size. It might be a little bit too small compared to the angle, but I'm okay. It's not going to be perfect. Now we're back to flat. I'm going to do the same thing with the F. Usually the middle one is shorter than the other side, but F is usually smaller on this line. What I'm trying to say, but I think I'm going to have them equidistant because the E is done the same, where everything is equidistant. Not that that's an important, just felt like mention. I think it is going to look smaller anyways because the angle. Has There you go. You had like the warping effect. All right. Nice. I'm glad when it comes together. 3 more letters. 3 more letters. We're almost there. I'll make it. Oh, for also have this weird belt design. I wanted something to break up the shape because it was a little bit too simple, just her in a hoodie and jeans. So I decided to have this belt that goes over her waist. That way you get a little bit more flair to the visuals. You have this big part of the belt hanging out because she doesn't put it in the little loop here that usually is on a belt, but I never drew it in. She just has it like hanging out, and I just want something that's a little bit asymmetric, break up the shape. It's a little goofy. I'm okay with that. She's a goofy character. She has cat. We can all agree that that's a little not a judgment on her character. Just saying that, abnormal. Nah, and that's actually the wrong word. Gonna leave it. No, not yet. We save the judgment for. Oh, you son of a. Hey, This is another letter where it's completely curvy, so it's gonna have some artistic expression, even if you don't want it. If you want it to be as flavorless and bland as possible, it's still gonna have some because he's curved. I don't know if that makes sense. There we go. Pick up the guide. Voila. Okay. I think the O is a little off. Uh, I'm not somebody that pays too much attention to details like that. I'm not a super clean artist. I know people who are. That's fine with me. I'm very much more of a get the job done kind of guy, and I hope that I don't think it's a lazy thing. I think it's a I like having my art be a little rough around the edges and a little unclean because it's fun that way. You get a little bit more of an artistic flair on it, just not rough unintentionally. Like you can tell when some things are rough and it wasn't intended to be that way. Oh my god, it was so hard to do this hand. Just talk about some of the details that were already finished by the time we got here. Um, it was so hard getting this selfie camera pose. I mentioned that, but like the hand originally was supposed to be. I wonder if I have the line art for it still. I might have deleted it. Oh, here it is. Yeah, originally the hand was gonna look like that, but it was so insanely hard to get it right. Let me. There we go. So this was the original pose, but it was so insanely hard to get it right because the wrist had to be like slightly bigger because like everything. Mm, 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 we're gonna make a new layer. We're gonna get some colors. Okay. So because of the way the angle worked, head big, feet small. Okay. Yeah. So you have things moving in the middle, which is her arm. So this part of the arm is gonna be big. This arm's gonna be slightly smaller. But it was so hard to pull that off that eventually I just had to leave. Like it's not the worst thing in the world. I don't like whenever I have a challenge and I'm not able to come up with it, but I eventually just decided that it wasn't worth all the work to do it and switched the pose to something a little bit more simpler. Um, but yeah, that's just something I felt like I had. This was gonna be the original pose. It just didn't feel natural. And it didn't with the perspective, it kind of looked a little off to me. So I just went for a slightly different pose. It's still the same thing. It's not, like the biggest change in the world, and I don't think it's gonna make that big of a difference. Oops, that's not. That's a funny line. We're gonna put that in the line art section. I've organized all. All right. So I think we're getting pretty much to the end of this. Let me set everything back up. Maria ink. Tia ink. No, that's the original. That's the one with the arm cut out. And put it back in the background and the block. That way you can pick up the line art curve. All right. This is basically where we're gonna. Oh, let me delete that thing in the top. So yeah, that's where we're at. Next, let me. These are my little notes. So let's go ahead and cross off add hoodie because that's next. We're going to on the next stream we're going to be inking the chair, which I already have a layer set up for it, and then we're going to be moving on to the coloring phase so I can get the shapes back. And once I get the shapes, I'll probably start thinking of a lighting guide. I might do that actually before anything because I'm gonna actually need to plot out the lighting situation. What I'm thinking is because it's a gamer setup, a streamer setup, probably gonna have LEDs just around the room. So she's gonna have bright pink, bright blues. She's a character that's into pink and black. So pinks, maybe blues, probably blues. Blues work really well with it, and that's probably about it. Just the pink and blue, I think, is a good dynamic. I think that might be a little bit too close to the other drawing. Okay, now it's over there. I think it's a little bit too similar to this drawing to have a very similar color palette. But they're vampires. They're all going to have a very dark palette in the first place, so it's all right if some of them are going to look a little bit too similar. A little bit similar, not too. Yeah, there we go. Thanks for joining the stream, everybody that could. Even if you're watching it later, that's fine with me. I do post all of these on my archive channel on YouTube. Links are in the description, I think. Pretty sure that's how it works. Twitch is a little different from YouTube. So that's why I'm not super sure about things. But yeah, you can watch it later. I'm also going to be doing a time lapse, or follow my Instagram because I post everything there too. Or my DeviantArt. DeviantArt will eventually have everything. I think that will have like the full descriptions and everything. I can be a little bit more silly. Instagram are kind of just like the best of the best. But anyways, thanks for joining. I'll be here next. Have a good night.